Hey, this is Regina White Favors with a new series, Don't Move Him In. This series is actually connected to a previous blog article that I wrote on my website. It's also part of a collection of blog articles that I self-published in a book titled Life Recovery After Romantic Hastiness. So I wanted to take a little bit of time to explore a few areas of Don't Move Him In. Do keep in mind these are situations where you are a single woman and you have an individual male who is interested in moving into your home and sort of positions himself to move in by leaving items at your house, sort of conducting a semi relationship as if you guys are together, creates a situation in his own personal life where he might lose his job, lose his place to stay, his shelter, and everything, or he just needs some money from you. And then all of a sudden, without any um, without realizing it, that you both are living together. This could also be based upon your own personal ego, that you feel like, hey, I want to help this person. I think he will be a good person to help. I love him. He seems to love me. So let's move in together. And a lot of times in those types of situations, you're really trying to control the situation, maybe keep tabs on them, maintain the relationship, and the person is kind of resistant to that. So you have different varying circumstances where you might move somebody in. And you have this whole concept of the homosexual, who is a man seeking a romantic relationship with a woman just so he can have a place to stay. And they do that seasonally, somewhere between winter to spring. And then in spring, they create a situation where they have to be kicked out, or you kick them out yourself. So with this series, I think it might later turn into a workbook. It could turn into a workshop. I'm not quite sure. We'll see. But I do want to take some time to really examine just areas of Don't Move Him In, so that you get a very good understanding about how important it is to make life decisions with an informed point of view, with an informed perspective, also considering your standards, boundaries, expectations, your core values, your ethics, your morals, your financial preparation, because any decision that you make is always going to affect your finances, and you could choose the wrong partner, and it could um, financially ruin you. So you want to keep that in mind. So this is Don't Move Him In, and the question that I want to pose this time is: has he conducted an academic, professional, and personal gap assessment? So I always place many of the decisions that we make under three major categories. And I do this when I'm teaching English. I do this when I'm making some business decisions, marketing and promotions decisions, and just general life decisions. So when you think about academic, what are his academic gaps? And the first thing you want to consider when you think about academic, professional, and personal is gap assessment. A gap assessment is essentially a business term. And what it basically means, if we just keep it in simple terms, gap assessment is what is in contrast to what should be. What is going on with you in your present, and what do you want to happen in your future? And you have to plan for your future in your present. So if you're missing some aspects of life where you have to cultivate yourself as an adult, meaning that you have to have an education beyond high school so that you can navigate the world that is before you, then that's an academic gap. People think that, okay, you don't need to go to college, you can just do this, you get along just fine. Regardless whether you believe you need to go to college or not, you still have to read something. Even the billionaire who might not have gone to college still had to read a book about accounting practices, legal practices, business practices. They might have made themselves a pseudo mentee to, say, one of the major business people, right? You may not have sat up under Bill Gates, or any of the other types of billionaires as mentor to mentee type of relationship, but you have taken the time to read something. That's education. That's self education, but it's still education. The thing about college allows you to discover your gifts and talents and process, and then also get feedback, improve, and then continue to move forward. And so, a lot of times, you will discover who you are and what you're going to do and your purpose when you are sitting in a classroom. You also need the processing time from the time you graduate from high school till about 25 years old, so that you stay focused, you don't get distracted, you come up with a life plan. So if you see a person who hasn't done any kind of education, anything, it could be vocational education, it could be a certificate program, it could be college education, it could be an apprenticeship program, anything beyond the high school level, because you your base knowledge is everything you learned at home all the way until graduating from high school. And then you have to make the case, well, has that person graduated from high school? Okay, then they have a problem with finish. They have a problem with completing goals. They don't maybe set realistic goals. Completing high school is a realistic goal because you have to enter the workforce and you need a GED, you need a diploma. And if you find that they are at a certain age in life, whether they are somewhat younger than you or your same age or older than you, and they don't have even a GED, that should tell you something, that they don't care about the importance of self improvement or completing one area of their life, one season of their life, to move into the next. And so then if you here it is that you care about these things, you have a college degree, or you have a certificate program, or you did some sort of apprenticeship, you did something to enter the workforce to be prepared. Here it is that you've done that, but now you're moving in someone who has not done that. Those are two different types of belief systems. Those are two different types of belief systems. And one of those belief systems is going to drag you down. And no matter how much you desire to want to help someone else, after you have moved that person in, is they are going to be in a sort of childhood, toddlerhood, um, adolescent type of thinking where they want to rebel. They're still in their parents' house, in their mother's house, um, having an adverse reaction to rules, having an adverse reaction to responsibilities. You throw a responsibility at the person, and somehow they manage to think that you're speaking a different language, because they don't have that as a understanding. They didn't even take time to finish what they started when they were in high school. So your academic gaps really do matter for how you're going to take the relationship forward, whether he's leading or you leading. It doesn't matter. If one of you is not equipped to live in the world as an adult and further develop and um, consistently develop, is going to affect the relationship, is going to affect the mind, the soul, the mind, the mental, the psychology, the spiritual, the financial, because the more money that you make is going, you're going to have to use that to fund the the whole relationship and the marriage, because the person is unwilling to improve. I remember a guy that I was with, and he was 12 years older than I was, and that's the first time I've ever dated someone older. And he was just the type of person who just wouldn't stay on a job past a certain time. His habit was two years or something like that, and then he jumped to the next thing. And I think he had his diploma. He had his diploma or GED, and then he did one semester or two semester at a college, and then he never went back. So then, fast forward 40s, 50 years old, he's jumping from job to job. He did manage to get some kind of license to drive trucks, forklifts, and things like that. But he didn't have much more than that when he began to assess his lifestyle after 40. And remember, in your 40s, you feel your mortality. And so he didn't have much. So when I looked at it, I assessed his situation and said, well, maybe he should hold off on the job hunting and maybe take a few classes at the campus, at the community college campus, so that he can improve his skill set, so he can go for something that he really wants to do. And so he played around, he cheated, he played around with an ex, he never improved, he never did anything. And so now he's back to square one. We're not together. He ended up going with someone else and marrying someone else, and but he still never improved his skill set. So he will always be at a certain earning level. He will never move beyond that unless he has an idea, and then he has the courage and grit to follow that idea, and then it turns into some manageable financial opportunity. But you have a lot of people like that who want to be rich, but they don't want to do the work that comes with being rich. And so he was unwilling to improve himself. Well, the relationship is going to deteriorate after that, because people tend to mock and gaslight and act like you think you're better than them or something like that, when that could not be further from the truth. You're just improving your life. What's wrong with that? And so the academic gap assessment is something that a person, individual, all adults need to do. I had to conduct a academic gap assessment. I graduated in 93, and then I went on ahead and worked for temp agencies, and then I was able to find a full-time job at the customer service environment. And then I one day, after being on that job for some time, I just kind of looked around. I just had a mind to look around. I don't know why, but I just had a mind to look around, and I noticed that there were older people working that job. And usually, certain jobs like McDonald's are really designed for younger people because they have the strength. And that's not a age discrimination type statement. It's just that you shouldn't be 80 years old standing 8 to 5 at Walmart as a greeter. I'm sorry, but you shouldn't. Something in you should have reassessed your life back in your late 30s to 40s, maybe taking some classes so that you could sit down in an office or something like that. I really do feel like that is not a good thing for someone. And when you don't, when I looked around and I noticed that there were certain people that just seemed like they just way too older to be in that type of stressful environment, I said to myself, the first question that I said, and I still believe, and I still can't believe that I said that. I don't even know where it came from. I said, is this going to be my life? Is this going to be my life? And something about me making that statement led me to then enroll in college, community college. Later, I went on ahead and relocated to San Diego and attended San Diego State. And then I got both the bachelor's and master's degree. My life has my life improved after I got the college degree, after I made the decision. It was important. So any gap assessments that I make them not necessarily with academic. I make them in terms of professional, wherever I need to improve. Whatever's going on with me now, in terms of the knowledge base I understand about myself in terms of being a teacher, and then where do I want to be? Where should I be? Right. So then take into the professional. If you have someone, there's nothing wrong with being 25 years on a job, because that is financial stability. And some people do not want to pursue anything beyond their current state. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no criticism about that. But I do caution someone. I do think about someone who is um, sort of in a certain position, and they've been in that position for 25 years, and they're complaining that they're not getting paid enough. Okay, so then that position only pays, say, $13 to $15 an hour. It's not going to increase more than $20, right? That's the position. That's one of those entry level positions that people start off with $10, 15, 10, 11, 12, 13, $15. You can't expect, just because you've been there 25 years, that you're going to get paid 25, 30, $34. No, you're going to have to find a way to improve yourself so that you can get that kind of money. So when you're looking at your professional gaps, and you can look at this in terms of job and career, and understanding that a job is a job that you clock in, clock out. You do a particular, you are assigned to a particular task. A career is sort of like above the level of a job where you understand the systems and things like that, and you dedicate yourself to a career. In other words, I have dedicated myself to being a teacher, a college professor. And so I do all that I can to improve. I take professional development classes. I do institutional service at my campus. And when I look at my professional gaps, it's always going to be what am I committed to? How much commitment have I shown? How much I need to improve my instructional strategy? How much I need to make lessons more practical, not just theoretical, and how to transition the students to the next level. So your professional is always going to be on some level, some mentoring role that you're going to give, that you're going to apply to your life. When you find yourself not instructing someone else and you're just keeping, hoarding knowledge to yourself, you are missing the opportunity to be of service, right? Sometimes people withhold knowledge because they are jealous to give that information to somebody else, because then if they improve, then it reflects on them as if, well, now I look like I haven't improved because they have improved. Don't worry about that. It is important that if someone took the time to mentor you and give you advice and show you a different way, that you position your heart to also help someone else mentor slightly or with boundaries, right? And so your professional gap assessment is that person pouring into someone else, or is that person just a mere taker? That person is going to take. They're never going to impart any wisdom in someone else. Even on their job, they only care about what they care about and getting a check. But here it is, there's a newcomer coming in who might need a little bit of guidance, and they won't do that. And so then they're going to move that kind of thinking to the home environment. They could show you a better way about something. And sometimes you may not always be receptive, but a lot of times you can be receptive. But people will sit back and look at you and look at how you're struggling and won't offer any guidance or direction, because they're just there to take. They're just there to get whatever they're going to get from you, because a lot of times they don't have any plans on staying. So when someone is not mentoring you, not imparting wisdom in you, giving you direction, instruction, it's because they don't have any plans to stay. Okay. Then the very last one is your personal gap assessment, and that really, to me, that is always along the lines of financial. If a person is moving in with you and they don't have a job, they don't have any money. And this person is an adult. This person is not a teenager. This person is not adolescent. This person is not a person who was orphaned or something like that. Okay, this person is not the typical vulnerable person. This person is well able and well capable of going out and getting work of some kind, but they just refuse. So that means when they refuse, they put themselves in a poverty mindset, a scarcity mindset, a fearful mindset. They also make themselves dependent upon the person who actually is working, and they use it as a guiding belief. I mean, how would you? We're not talking about someone who has lost his or her job, struggling, going through the pandemic, going through the financial recession, couldn't find work, or couldn't find sustainable work. We're not talking about that person. We're talking about the person who is post pandemic, post financial recession, 3 to 4 years out of it, plenty of jobs out there to get of any kind, and the person refuses. And so the personal gap assessment has that person conducted a personal gap assessment concerning their finances. Do they save anything? Do they have any money? Do they always spend? It, do they have an emergency savings fund or plan? Um, if you were not in their life, could they still take care of themselves? Literally, you have women kicking out men and they leave with two trash bags, and they don't know where they're going to live. And a lot of times they actually do. They just move to the next relationship or bed that they've already cultivated while they were in relationship with that woman. But that is something to think about, because people think that just because you're sleeping at your mother's house or your friend's house that you're not homeless. No, you are homeless, because at any time that person could decide to say, hey, I don't want you to live here, you got to go, then you would have to go. Where would you go? And with you being an adult, from a personal standpoint, can you take care of yourself? I have a blog article titled, Can You Fund a Relationship? If you decide to engage in a relationship with someone romantically, can you fund it? Funded is not always financially. Funded could be emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. Can you pour into that relationship, or are you just going to also be a taker in a relationship? And the both of you take and take and take from each other until you run out of steam, run into a brick wall, and then suddenly you have to divorce, or suddenly you have to separate from each other, right? Whether you were divorced or not. So your personal gap assessment is always going to be on a financial level. Can you, if you take in that person, your rent is say $1,500, right? Your utilities may be 200 or less. Your food cost is going to be 200 or more. Um, if you have a car, you're going to have a car payment, insurance, any other types of costs that you may have to pay. Once you bring that person in, your costs are going to rise. They're not going to pay rent. They're not going to contribute to the electric bill. They're not going to contribute to the food. You're going to run yourself ragged trying to buy them stuff, and then your costs are going to rise. It will be better that you don't move the person in. Let the person who is a man figure it out, because it's funny how women always manage to figure things out. Let him figure it out. Quit moving in men who have no life goals, no life plan, no money, no job, when there are plenty of jobs out here. Make a lot of excuses about the man is keeping me down, or a previous partner kicked him out, and she just didn't want to see him do well, or something. Like all these different types of victim narratives, they're going to jump onto you, and you're going to find yourself talking exactly the same way. So when you think about, has he conducted an academic, professional, and personal gap assessment, all roads eventually lead to finances. And that, as I noted earlier, you can bring in the wrong person in your house, and it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. It could be a friendship. It can be a family member. You can bring in the wrong person in your house at a time where you may need to heal, where you may need to do better with your finances, where may need the solitude, where you may need to work on yourself, do all different types of stuff, exercise, right? When you bring them in, you are interrupting your own process. But you are also, when you bring them in, when you move them in, you're interrupting whatever process they are in. In other words, you save them, you put a cape on and you save them, but they're skipping steps. Moving into your house is skipping steps. What that person needs to do is create an opportunity to talk to whoever he is living with. Say, hey, I just got this job. I need to save for an apartment. Can I stay here for about 6 months? 6 months, and then kind of reassess, pay you some rent, contribute to the food, and then maybe in about 9 months I'll be out of here for good. And then that person moves into his own apartment. He pays for the apartment himself. He keeps the job. He sustains himself, and then he does that for a year. My stepfather said this, and I didn't pick it up. I didn't have the consciousness to understand it that much. But he said, when you are assessing a guy, ask him how long he has been out on his own. And then look at how he has furnished his apartment. The furniture doesn't have to be perfect, but he furnished it, right? And then ask him about his job, all different types of things. And so I wish I had done that, because I was so busy trying to move the person in that I missed so much of the obvious. The obvious being that the person was not in an adult mindset, and I was trying to be an adult for him and me. And really, I was not being an adult, because if I'm taking in somebody who cannot take care of themselves, we're both childlike thinking in our mind. So I had to make a lot of decisions concerning those types of situations. So not to do that, and that's why I have created this series. So this is Don't Move In. The question being, has he conducted an academic, professional, and personal gap assessment? Visit reginawhitefavors.com for tips, resources, and access to videos. You can also access videos via my YouTube channel, Regina White Favors, and then you can visit my online store, reginawhitefavorsauthor.com. Thank you very much for listening.